Hi, and welcome back to the Awaken Your Wise Woman podcast. I am Biz Cush, your host. You may know me as Elizabeth Cush, but better known as Biz. And I'm super excited about today's guest for the podcast. And I also just wanted to share some announcements before we get started. The Circle of Sacred Sensitivity is open for registration. I am very excited about the space. I'm excited about the women who are joining and meeting me there, and I hope that you'll consider being a member. You get 14 days free when you sign up, and it'll give you a chance to kind of test it out and see whether you like it or not, and you can cancel at any time. But it is a monthly membership, and it is for highly sensitive women. So if you are looking for community, this is not a business group. This is not um, a skills group. This is just a place to meet and connect and build your community of highly sensitive women. And I have added meditations and energetic practices there within the membership for you to access, all for the small monthly payment of $19 a month. Plus, we meet live every month for an hour and 15 minutes. So, can't get much better than that. So I hope you'll consider joining. You can find out more at elizabethcush.com, and you will find all the info there in the show notes. So my guest today is Susan Shapiro Barash, and we had an amazing conversation about friendships, about community for women, about how the patriarchy and capitalism has impacted our sense of what relationships should be or how we interact in relationships. It was fascinating. It was really very cool, but I don't have to tell you that. You can listen for yourself. So let's jump into that conversation. Hi, Susan. Welcome to the Awaken Your Wise Woman podcast.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, I'm excited to have this conversation. I feel like I've been talking to a lot of women about what we're going to talk about, friendships and things like that. But I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself, so for the listeners who don't know who you are.
Well, Estranged, How Strained Female Friendships Are Mended or Ended is my 18th book, and it's my 14th nonfiction book. And then under my pen name, I write dramatic women's fiction. And my pen name is Susanna Marin, so I have four novels under that name. And until COVID, for 24 years, I was a writing professor at Marymount Manhattan College. And the way that it works there is that I had a topic, and so my subject was gender. And it works and did work always perfectly with what I write about, which is how women of all ages, a very diverse group of women, are positioned in contemporary American society.
That feels like such an important topic that I feel like we could just talk about that. But I I also know just from the work that I'm doing with my clients that often, and even in friendships that I have, people are the women I know are talking about just their friendships and how at this time in their life, so probably midlife, they're realizing that some of the friendships aren't as aligned as they thought they were in the past, and really sort of navigating that landscape of like, well, what do I do with that now? If I've been friends for 30 years, now what if I feel like it's not aligned anymore?
Well, yes, definitely women in midlife and beyond, but also young women. So for this study, I interviewed 150 women and also have a questionnaire for another 111 women at the back of the book, a survey.
Mm.
And as I said, a very diverse group in terms of age, race, ethnicity, level of education, religion and, living all over the country in suburbs, cities, rural areas, and really I'm always looking at the emotional issues for
Yeah.
women. And
Yeah.
female friendships are incredibly important to us. So
Yeah.
when there's a problem or they fail, we really suffer and question a great deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I feel like, I mean, I think you've identified yourself through our emails as a highly sensitive woman. And I myself am. And I feel like it hits us even maybe more deeply if like a friendship is struggling or
Mhm.
suffering, that we really feel it in a way that maybe the average person might not.
And the sense of loss when it goes wrong is so great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but a lot of women talked about it, about feeling betrayed and feeling as if they had stayed loyal for way too many years. And the idea that we are failing this is what's trending now, that the idea that we fail if we don't stay with the friend is what we've always been taught, best friends forever. However,
Mm,
what I saw in this study is that women are now saying, you know what? I need to preserve myself and I can't stay with this friend where it's no longer healthy or happy. And I'm finally able to leave and see a better other side. The other side of it will be much better for me.
hmm. And what prompted you to write this book? Did you yourself have friendships that were sort of going awry, or just something that you were seeing out in, more out in the world?
Well, as I said, it's my 14th nonfiction book. And so any book that I've written because I couldn't find the study slash book in a bookstore. And as the late great Toni Morrison said, although I'm paraphrasing, if
Mm.
there's a book you need and you don't see it, you should write it.
Yeah.
And that certainly applied to me when I was a very young bride years ago, and there was no book on mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law. And
Mm,
also no books on being a second wife. So eventually I realized I needed to write those books and see how other women in with
yeah.
this sort of complicated mother-in-law or being a second wife, even at a very young age, how did they feel about it? So I looked into that, and I've actually done several studies on the role of wife in America because we expect so much. And I've also written a book on female rivalry and a
Mm,
book on sisters and a book on mothers and daughters. So, this is what I'm looking at. So, in terms of this book, 7.5 years ago, my beloved mother died, and I was really surprised by which friends were there for me and which friends actually weren't there, and
yeah.
kind of didn't reach out and didn't really understand the gravity of my sorrow and
Yeah.
how deep it went. And so I decided to look into it and see how my hunch that in times of great sadness or times of great joy, we really understand who the friends are and who they aren't for us.
Mm,
And as I said, I interview 150 women per book or up to 200, depends on the book. But for this book, I interviewed 25 women, and all of them were saying this, and as I said, 7.5, almost 8 years ago.
mhm.
And all of them were saying, oh my God, I wish I could leave. I just dread being alone. I dread being alone in the group. I'm afraid I'll lose other friends because we share them or we have a history together. All the reasons, or, as a pleaser, how could I, not get this right? All of
Yeah.
the usual mistakes, the price of being a good girl. But I told my agent I wanted to write this book, and she said to me, you are under contract for your novels first. So by the time I went back to this, like
Mm,
2 years ago, everything had changed. COVID had happened, so it was, yeah, like 2 years ago for sure.
Yeah.
And the Me Too movement had really had impact, and
Yeah.
women were saying something very different. They were
Interesting.
saying, I can leave this friend.
Hmm.
I'll have better friends if I leave. Or I did leave the friend and I have better friends and I feel better. I'm stronger. So it's not that it's easy to do, but that we feel empowered to do it.
Yeah. Interesting. Which I love. I love that women are feeling more empowered to really seek out friendships that do serve them, that are more reciprocal and enriching and supportive. I know, yeah, I have had some, I can relate to being in a relationship with a friend for too long, like recognizing that it was harmful, but also feeling like I needed to stay. This was years ago because of the group, because of where we lived, because of the history, and finally being able to say, like, this just doesn't work anymore. And as hard as that was, it really opened so many doors for me to leave that behind.
Well, 75% of the women with whom I spoke said that it's harder to leave a best friend, best or closest female friend, than it is to leave a romantic relationship or a marriage. So that says a
Wow.
lot, doesn't it?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So interesting, right? I mean,
Yeah.
88% of the women with whom I spoke told me that they'd had some kind of friendship problem with their best friend.
Interesting. And so, like, I mean, do you have a sense for why that's harder? Like, you would think a partner or a husband or a wife would be harder to leave than a best, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe because the best friend is like the best friend. And so what does that mean if that's not there anymore?
Well, partly it is that there has been so much intimacy, so many
Yeah.
shared feelings, secrets, thoughts, hopes,
Yeah.
that sense that we're so understood.
Yeah.
If you not be understood, how could your friend betray you? I mean, think of all that she did that made you feel safe in this friendship, in this relationship, when you didn't feel safe anywhere else. And
Mm,
the whole idea for women really is that this friend is a safe harbor. I mean, we're talking about the closest friends or best
yes.
friends. We're not talking about the woman you walk 3 miles with every day, or at the gym, or she carpools on Wednesdays and Fridays, and you do the rest of the week with your young children. But the friend where you've really sought her out and you've
Yeah.
shared so
Yeah.
much,
Really opened
as you
your
said,
heart.
yeah, the reciprocity and the trust level.
Yeah.
So it's a,
Yeah.
it's a very big deal.
Yeah, yeah, really big deal. And that, you said this word a couple times, but that betrayal of when it feels that it's not, that something is shifted or changed, or that you maybe you no longer trust them because of whatever has happened, and that feels very deep too.
Well, the way that these friendships break up is two major ways. One is something so egregious happens. Like if she's your best friend at work, she steals your idea that you've confided in her and presents it as her own, or she flirts with your new boyfriend, or she is socially ambitious and you no longer fit in. And so
Mm,
she actually doesn't invite you anymore and you learn about it. All of these things are very, very like incendiary, and suddenly there's a huge blow up.
yeah.
And then, it's over, or it's cumulative. The
Mm,
friend, she's really not respecting you, or did you imagine it?
yeah.
She really hasn't had time for you, but maybe you have to just understand her schedule better. Or she has little children now and you're still single in the city and you don't understand her life and she doesn't understand yours, but you still try. Those are much more where they just all add up in some way. So
Hmm.
those are really the two ways. But in either situation, we end up knowing that the fit is no longer really right.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, I feel that. And what are and I haven't read your book, so I have to say that, but it intrigues me and I'm going to. But are there signs or signals that through your research you have seen that, women are picking up on these things throughout? I mean, you shared a couple of things, but, you know, how might a woman know if they're not sensing it within, like that maybe it's time to move on?
Well, I do think a lot of the women do feel it in some way,
Mm-hmm.
even though they make excuses.
Mm-hmm.
They feel that it's no longer what it was, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it just is uneasy. It's no longer fun. You want to avoid her. You
Mm,
you don't believe what she says anymore. There's a lot of doubt around it.
yeah.
And those are signals, but we don't always act on it. As I said, if something really horrific happens, then you can't ignore it. But when it's more subtle, then you're sometimes, late to the game,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't realize that this friend is no longer really your friend. And
Yeah.
that's very hard. It's
That
very
is really
hard.
hard.
We're supposed to be in it together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I heard you say, at the beginning of this conversation that for you, it involved losing your mother and who
Right.
showed up and who didn't. And I feel like I hear that a lot from clients where something significant has happened in their life and they're so like, how did, whether it was a sister or a best friend, right? That like,
Oh, I'm
how did they
so,
not meet me?
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned sisters, because here's what happened. When I was writing the book, I said to my editor, look, these women are all saying, this diverse group of women, they're saying, oh, a lot of them, oh, everyone thought we were sisters. We were so close, or it
Oh,
felt like sisters. That's why I'm suffering so.
mm,
And I asked if I could have at least one sister, story per chapter, so that we could look at what it's like to fall out with your sister, because you know, with our friends, we choose them. It's
right,
fictive family, if we will. We
right.
choose them and they're not assigned to us. But with sisters, there's the hovering mother, there's the family, and the expectation that family is a thick, really
The
strong
bond.
bond.
Yeah.
So while the behaviors might be the same, the sense of loss is so tremendous. And there's always that feeling that the mother would be disappointed, or she is disappointed. So that
Mm.
differentiates it. But sisters have falling outs too. And
Oh,
years
yeah.
ago, when I wrote the book Sisters Devoted or Divided, that's when I did that book and interviewed the women. It was very interesting because when the sisters were no longer speaking, they were seeking out very close female friends. And if they were very tight, they didn't really need their female friends the same way those of us who don't have a sister do.
Interesting. That makes sense, though, because that becomes sort of the de
Mhm.
facto best friend that you share all the things with,
And
your
the other
sister.
part is, in both sister situations and best friend situations, we're really talking about the sheer force of a female bond,
Mm.
of what that provides for us.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so important. I mean, I feel like the times in my life where uh, that bond has felt, I'm going to say the word shattered, broken. I I felt it such a loss at not having that anchor, right? That person I just knew was always going to be there. I mean, I do have a sister, but she lives far away, so we don't see each other that much. So, but yeah, and that losing that best friend really uh, almost destabilized my sense of safety in the world for a long time.
That's exactly what the women are saying. I mean, On the other hand, 75% of the women told me that they were relieved to
Hmm.
leave a friendship that had turned so sour, and
Yeah, yeah,
72% said they had the courage to do it.
yeah,
So, you know, we hold the bar high, but we eventually face the reality if need
yeah,
be.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and it certainly was the right thing to do in terms of my own situation. It was definitely the healthiest thing I could do for myself. But yeah, but hard nonetheless. Um,
Well, when I was starting to write this book and do the research, and I did a in there are the so let me just say the layout of the book is that there are many short interviews, just where the women, give us their story. And
mm,
then per chapter, there's one sister story. And
mm.
then there's also per chapter one long, both sides of the breakup story.
Oh,
And I call
interesting.
it She Said, She Said.
Yeah.
And those read almost like fiction. I mean, they're just like narratives. They're really, they have a beginning, a middle, an end. And, what happened to these two friends. And both sides were willing to talk to me, which was
Interesting.
really something. I found
Yeah.
that all of it really intriguing. Every story that was shared,
Mm,
either, the shorter stories or the long, both sides of the stories really, really were very poignant and very heartfelt. But I
mm,
also look in the book at pop culture and I look at some celebrity culture.
mm,
So my daughter, my eldest and first daughter, said to me a few weeks ago, she said, Mom, did you know that? And she sent me, of course, she texted the link that, Blake Lively and Taylor Swift no longer speak to each other. And
mm,
Taylor's over what's happened with Blake Lively, apparently. And I think, yeah, and that it was precipitated by Taylor Swift. But in the book, I look at other celebrity women, and I even look at Ella Fitzgerald and Marilyn Monroe. They were so close, but Ella Fitzgerald was very concerned about her friend Marilyn's drug use and drinking. And I have a whole chapter on when we enable a friend who has some sort of addiction
mm.
and what that does to the person who's really carrying the burden and how hard it is to be that kind of friend. But
Yeah.
I also looked at competitive friends, sort of
Mm.
the Betty and Veronica's of it all, and some famous stories. And it's just been going on forever.
Yeah.
It's just, if I were in a classroom right now, I would say to the students, it's partly nurture, which is what we're taught by society, how women always operate in terms of limited goods. We're told because we live in a patriarchy that there's not enough pie to go around.
Yeah.
So if your best friend gets the job or the guy or gets to move, somehow we think there's some magical theft and we won't get our opportunity. We have to stop thinking like that. And then there's our nature. How competitive or jealous are you by nature?
Mm.
And so these are the things that factor in, the societal prescription, and then how we really feel individually in these friendships.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I feel like part of that cultural messaging around women and being friends is this sort of um, that we're this sort of gossipy tribe of females that are, either talking about each other behind our backs, that we're friends, but we're kind of, snarky behind when the other person's not there, that there's this sense through, movies and social media that like this is sort of a normal dynamic, which I I struggle with that piece of it, but also have struggled with that, looking back at friendships throughout my life where it did feel like when that other, the third person wasn't there, that's who you were talking about, right? And which
Yeah,
just
which
leaves this
is
sense of unsafety in all relationships.
Yes, it's really a form of betrayal, and you
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
like, as you said, the lack of safety.
Yeah.
And again, that really there has to be a much better standard.
Yeah.
And the authentic friend wouldn't do that.
Right.
She wouldn't
Right.
ask them.
No, no, no.
She
And
would
I,
just find the good and be supportive. And
yeah.
there's that too. And sometimes in this book, women are losing touch, although this is primarily about real breakups, not just, oh, we grew apart or we lost touch, but when we reunited, it was as if nothing had happened, no time had passed. We've all heard that.
Yeah.
But this is where there's really a critical, situation, and then
Yeah.
everything shapeshifts.
Yeah. 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 No, I get that. I do. Yeah. I've just been, well, I'm 65 now and just really being more mindful about the women I welcome into my circle because I want it to be a space of, yeah, not the competitiveness, not the jealousy, not the backbiting. Like it just needs, yeah, I want to just feel held and supported in my relationships, all of them.
But what's so fascinating is because I mentioned that I spoke with women in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s,
Yeah.
70s, till a little past 80. We women in our society reinvent themselves about every 10 years.
Hmm.
You're a young working woman, you're maybe a bride, whatever happens, you have children, you meet other women with children. It's easier to be with the mirroring friend, the friend who has the exact same experience going on. The kids grow up, we all get them through high school, college, we get them through.
Hmm.
And for all of that, there's a lot of, the theory of homogamy, like with like, your life is so similar to mine. Of course, we're close because of that commonality.
Hmm.
But what was so curious to me in this book is that 50 and 60-year-old women, retire in their 60s, some of them,
Hmm.
and move to a community. New friends wherever we go, new friends when we move, new friends when, we're now empty nesters, all different experiences, but many times the same situation where you meet a new friend, you're enthused or you're reunited, and then that inciting incident, something. For
Mm.
example, I interviewed a woman who said that she was in her early 60s and she had moved to a retirement community with her husband.
Hmm.
And everyone was so happy. There was a new couple in the community, and they had dinners, and they were included, and there were card games and all the stuff that goes on. And then, book club, everything was inclusive. And then her husband unexpectedly died. And
Yeah.
as a widow, she felt shunned. The couples took her out, each of the couples took her out once, and then basically they didn't want a third wheel. The
No.
widows and divorced groups weren't very inviting because it was competitive. And,
Hmm.
someone said, well, aren't there enough single women around here?
Wow.
So she really once again felt, she didn't know where she really belonged. And
Yeah.
she'd given up the old life and the old town, her hometown. So I think we have to be very watchful because this limited goods situation that we all live with can really create a problem. I
Yeah.
mean, everyone acted like we don't need one more widow.
Yeah. Yeah. Or yeah, right. Don't need one more widow or one more a woman competing for maybe a widower, right?
Right, right. Are there any around? Let's grab them. Oh, but she can't be in line to grab them. So it really becomes a situation for women where they feel uneasy and they've left the old friends behind. So it happens at every stage. A good example of that I cite in the book,
Mhm.
as an example of fictive family is Sex in the City. And
Mm,
that template is one where the friends clearly select each other. They're not
right.
assigned. There's no family except Miranda's character had a mother-in-law back,
Mm,
not in the new version, and just like that, but that's what it's called. But in Sex and the City many years ago, when she marries Steve,
hmm.
there's Anne Mira, the actress, plays her mother, but in law, but for the most part, no family. We don't see
Right.
siblings, we don't see mothers coming to town. They provide fictive family. They
Mm,
are, that's the paradigm. They are
yeah.
family for each other. It all goes really well. They sit around tables in New York restaurants and chat and reveal their innermost hopes. But when just apropos of this limited goods, theory is
Hmm.
that when Charlotte is trying to have a baby and trying to have a baby and finally adopts and does in vitro and goes through everything. And then Miranda just announces at one of their meals, guess what? I'm pregnant. I never
Mm,
expected this. And it's shocking to all four of them, even to Miranda. But Charlotte says something like, no, I'm supposed to be pregnant. And that really, but again, I paraphrase, but the point is that we can't think that if our friend has success, she took our chance too, because that's not how it works.
yeah.
And women won't have all the options they need until they don't view the world that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it feels, that feels like a bigger message than just around friendships, right? Like,
Yes, exactly. But around like females uniting and bonding and not feeling like we're in perpetual competition. I had
yes.
written years ago, I did a book called Tripping the Prom Queen, The Truth
Mm,
About Women Rivalry. And in that book, I really listened to women, again, a very disparate group, talk about the ways in which they felt that they were in constant competition with even their closest friends and other
yeah.
women.
Yeah. Oof. It's exhausting.
Exhausting and really not the right way to operate.
No, no,
So,
no.
to bring a new friend in to belong to a group, which is so important to women,
Hmm.
is supposed to be very secure and also is supposed to be the one safe haven
Mm,
because children can be tricky. They grow up, they leave
mm,
the house. The men come and go for various reasons. I mentioned a widow, to the divorce rate. And so the friends are supposed to be there no matter what.
yeah,
And women in this book talked about that, about, the struggle when the friend isn't really coming through and how much that really discourages them and how much you feel like you're alone when you expected to have that buffer.
yeah, yeah. No, I can so relate to that. And yeah, I do find personally, and as I work with clients, that for them too, as they're healing the wounds of whether it's a betrayal in a friendship or, past childhood wounds, that it does help them find more secure, safe relationships with other women because they themselves feel like less in competition or less that scarcity of like, there's nobody out there for me. So I got to grab what I can. It's just more of a sense of meeting somebody else from your heart.
Yes, and so many women talked about how they used to share values. One chapter that I would not have expected
Mm,
to write when I first pitched this book, when my mom died, is a chapter that became important based on, the interviewees describing what I call the chapter the disparaging friend. And that's the friend who's so critical in a way that it didn't happen in like years ago we were more careful, but because maybe social media, we just say everything is spilled. So that was one chapter I didn't think I'd really have when I first started it. And the other is the diametrically opposed friend, where
Mm,
you really don't have the same political beliefs anymore. You don't look at vaccine and boosters the same way. You don't look at how to raise your children in terms of their health and boosting and inoculating the same way. And whereas in days gone by, it would have
mm,
been, oh, well, she and I did not vote for the same candidates, to today being like, why would I be friends with someone who voted for that person instead of my person? And
yes.
so much more divisive.
Yes. 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 Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You
I
must
just
see it in your practice. I mean,
absolutely
where,
families that are
people,
like, yeah, just destroyed through political divisiveness or whatever. Yeah. Values. Yeah.
yeah, to no longer really, I mean, even, goes back to the other chapter that, our value system used to be much more respectful, but now, like maybe you wouldn't be hard on your friend, but now people are leaving friends in this chapter because of who they voted for.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable. Could not have predicted that.
Yeah. I bet not. I bet not. Yeah. It is, does feel like it's a whole different world we're living in right now with the as much
Oh,
divisiveness as
there's
there
so
is.
many. That would be a whole other show, a
Yeah,
whole other
yeah,
time.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But
Yeah.
but what's really common is the green-eyed friend. That's another one of my chapters
Mm,
where we've just seen it, we've been taught it, our mentors have shown us what jealous women can do, what they feel like.
yeah.
And so that's something that we really know about.
Oh,
And women
absolutely.
talked about that and how hard that was
Yeah,
to have a friend who is just so, the jealousy just is a very bad vibe and often prevalent, often really just part of the friendship, especially when, the glittering prizes for women are now going to your friend and not to you. So if we believe in it, say, you know, the right lifestyle, the right marriage if you want it, children if you want it, great success in a capitalistic society,
hmm,
beauty, privilege,
yeah,
all that we're told to hope for and to aspire to. And if one friend ascends with all this and the other is really stuck or worse, descends, it creates a lot of friction and jealousy. It really
yeah,
does.
yeah. I bet. I bet the sense of, yeah, why me? Either like why me? Why didn't I get to have all that? Or
Right.
like, yeah, yeah, or some negative feelings towards the person who you are jealous of. Yeah, yeah.
And then there's
Mm,
the hierarchy of friendships. I mean, I'm more important to my best friend than I'm more that she's not as important to me. It was someone say, I care about her, but I have a significant other, or my two sisters and I are so close. So that
mhm.
kind of inequality in terms of what you mean and where you belong in the other person's life is very hard too. Just another aspect of
Mm,
feeling like the friendship isn't rewarding. The give and
wow.
take isn't the same. She takes all the time, women would say. I give all the time. Young
Yes.
women, 45-year-old women, 70-year-old women talking about that still.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I have heard that in with work and my clients of yeah, just feeling really unseen or even just unvalidated in a group of friendships where other people seem to have more space or be given more space.
Right, right.
Yeah,
And I would
yeah,
come through for her, she won't come through for me. Or
yeah, yeah.
she's lied to me about her plans. I've included her in everything.
Mm,
Just these are the stories.
yeah,
You really hear it. You hear women who are so disappointed, so let down by the friend. And then there's the estranger, the one who leaves this friendship and puts that into play, and the estrangee, the person who's at the receiving end of the breakup.
totally. Yeah. Well, I feel like we could probably talk about this for another 40 minutes or so, but I want to be mindful of your time and respectful of your time. But this was so interesting and so, I feel like it's so on point for what I'm hearing from my own clients and friends and just sort of navigating uh, this season of, or whatever, where they are in their friendships and just really kind of reevaluating. And it feels like uh, like I said, I'm going to get your book, but it just feels really relevant for what we're going through right
I
now.
think it is. Thank you for saying that. I think that we we're not going to give up on our female friends, but we have to understand which ones have the offer the real support and the truest safe harbor, and those who don't. And get over the shock effect of how it's no longer what it was, and you know preserve ourselves in order to have better bonds going forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. So important. So important. Well, if people wanted to find out more about all of your work, but particularly this new book, how do they find you?
They can go to my website, which is susanshapiroBarish.com or susannamarin.com. Both names will get you there. Or follow me on Instagram or
Nice.
Facebook.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I will include all the links to your
Thank you.
yeah, for your social media and your website in the show notes. And yeah, I look forward to sharing this with my listeners and the rest of the world. Yeah. Thanks,
Thank you
Susan.
very much.
And I look forward to connecting with you here on the podcast next time.